The golden figure of the archivist moved gracefully across the chamber floor. As it walked, the star map above shifted, showing different regions of space, different times in history. Jiwoo and her crew watched in stunned silence as their entire understanding of galactic history crumbled and reformed. "You must see," the archivist said. "You must understand what was, so you can prepare for what is coming." The star map changed again, and they were looking at a thriving galaxy. Thousands of inhabited worlds glowed with the light of civilization. Ships moved between stars like birds migrating across a vast sky, and at the heart of it all were humans, the first children, coordinating, guiding, helping. They were not conquerors, the archivist explained. The first children explored for 1,000 generations before they found even one other species capable of intelligence. When they did, they were overjoyed. They were alone no more, so they searched harder, looked further, and found worlds where life was beginning but had not yet achieved sentience. The star map showed a blue world covered in oceans. Primitive creatures swam in those waters, but there was potential in them. This was the homeworld of the species you now call the reptilians, the archivist continued. The first children found them as simple creatures, operating on instinct alone. Your ancestors spent centuries studying them, understanding their biology, their potential, and then, with careful genetic guidance and environmental support, they helped these creatures develop intelligence. They taught them language, showed them fire, gave them tools. They watched as the reptilians built their first cities, reached for their moon, and eventually touched the stars. Seok stared at the images with wide eyes. Thalvic species. They were created by ancient humans? Not created, the archivist corrected. Guided, uplifted, given the chance to become more than they were. And they were not the only ones. The map shifted again and again, showing world after world. The insectoids, the aquatic species, the silicon-based life forms, the energy beings, dozens of species that now filled the galaxy. Each one had been found by the first children, studied and carefully helped along the path to sentience. "We created the entire galactic civilization," Hana said, her voice barely a whisper. "Humanity is the parent species of everyone." The first children believed in the potential of all life, the archivist said. They believed the galaxy would be richer, more beautiful, with many voices instead of one. So they dedicated themselves to this great work. For millions of years they tended the garden of the galaxy. Then what happened? Jiwoo asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "What was the darkness I saw in the vision?" The archivist's form dimmed slightly, as if remembering something painful. "The unraveling. That is what the first children called it. It came from beyond the edges of known space, from a place where reality itself was thin. It was not alive in any way you would understand, yet it had purpose. It consumed everything, matter, energy, even time itself. Stars did not explode when it touched them. They simply stopped existing, along with everything around them. The star map now showed a spreading darkness at the edge of the galaxy. Entire sectors of space turned black as the unraveling advanced. The first children fought, the archivist continued. They built weapons that could reshape reality, ships that could move through dimensions, shields that bent space itself. Nothing worked. The unraveling could not be stopped, only delayed. Every weapon they used against it, every defensive system they built would eventually fail. It learned, adapted, overcame. Yuna was taking notes frantically, her medical mind trying to understand something that defied all known science. "How do you fight something that unmakes reality?" "You don't," the archivist replied simply. The first children realized this after countless battles and the loss of millions of worlds. They had to make a choice. They could stay and fight until the unraveling consumed everything, or they could try something desperate. The star map showed something incredible. Thousands of ships like the one they stood in now were being constructed. At the same time, humans were being gathered from across the galaxy. They called it the Great Forgetting. The archivist said, "It was the most difficult decision any civilization has ever made." They would erase themselves. Every record, every city, every trace of their advanced civilization would be hidden or destroyed. They would take their people, strip away their technology and their memories, and scatter them on remote worlds where the unraveling might not reach. "That's insane," Seok said. "They threw away millions of years of progress?" "They preserved it," the archivist corrected, gesturing to the ship around them. "In vessels like this one, Thousands of archive ships were built and hidden in places where the unraveling would not look. Each one contains the complete knowledge of the first children, waiting for the day when it would be safe to return. And the other species? Hana asked. What happened to all the civilizations they had helped create? The first children left them with enough knowledge to survive and grow, but not enough to draw the attention of the unraveling. They hoped that by the time the danger passed, their children, both human and otherwise, would have survived and could rebuild together. They left clues, hints, pieces of their language and culture embedded in the DNA and early development of every species they had touched. Jiwoo thought about the symbols on the walls, the way they reminded Hana of ancient human writing. That's why there are similarities between different species' early languages and cultures. They all came from the same source. Exactly, the archivist confirmed. The first children planted seeds everywhere, hoping some would grow. How long ago did this happen? Yuna asked. The Great Forgetting began 8 million years ago, the archivist said. It took 2 million years to complete. The last humans to retain their memories and technology were the ones who built ships like this one, then placed themselves in stasis, hoping to wake when the danger had passed. Most never did. Their ships failed, or were destroyed, or simply drifted until their power ran out. This vessel is one of the few that survived. 8 million years. The number was so large it was almost meaningless. Jiwoo tried to imagine that much time passing, empires rising and falling, species evolving and dying, while this ship waited in the darkness. You said the unraveling was delayed, not stopped, Jiwoo said, a cold feeling growing in her stomach. Is it still out there? The archivist's form flickered. That is why I have awakened. That is why this ship responded to your presence. The unraveling has been dormant, sleeping, waiting, but now it stirs again. I have detected the signs at the edges of the galaxy. Stars are beginning to disappear once more. The star map zoomed out, showing the entire galaxy. At the very rim, barely visible, were small dark spots where stars should be. It's coming back, Hana whispered in horror. Yes, the archivist said, and this time you must be ready. The first children left their knowledge so that their descendants could succeed where they failed. You are those descendants. You are the inheritors, and the responsibility for stopping the unraveling now falls to you. Wait, Seok said, his voice rising. You're saying humanity has to save the galaxy? We're supposed to fight this thing that defeated a civilization millions of years more advanced than we are? Not humanity alone, the archivist replied. All the species of the galaxy must unite. But this ship, this knowledge, it will only respond to human command. The first children designed it that way as a safeguard. The unraveling could mimic many things, but it could never truly become human. The genetic markers, the vocal patterns, the neural signatures, these were locks that only true humans could open. Jiwoo stood up, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. What exactly is in this ship? What knowledge did the first children leave? Everything, the archivist said simply. The complete scientific understanding of the first children. Technologies that your current civilization cannot even imagine. Weapons that can manipulate the fabric of reality. Ships that can move faster than light without using conventional drives. Medical knowledge that can extend life indefinitely. And most importantly, the one thing the first children never had time to complete. A weapon that might actually stop the unraveling. Might? Yuna caught the word. The first children were working on it when they ran out of time, the archivist explained. They had a theory, a way to fight the unraveling using its own nature against it. But they never got to test it. The knowledge is here, but you will have to complete their work. You will have to take humanity's ancient legacy and use it to save the galaxy. The four humans looked at each other. They had come to this ship looking for archaeological curiosities, maybe some old technology. Instead, they had found the truth about humanity's place in the cosmos, and a responsibility that seemed impossible to bear. The other species, Jiwoo said slowly. How will they react when they learn that humans are their ancestors? That everything they are came from us? That is perhaps the greatest challenge, the archivist admitted. Some will be grateful. Some will deny it. Some will be angry. And some will fear what humans might do with this knowledge. The first children were not perfect, Captain. In their final years, before the unraveling came, they had grown proud and controlling. The decision to modify the archivist's programming sparked immediate controversy. Half of the human delegation supported Jiwoo's plan. The other half called it treason. Death threats arrived daily. The restoration movement grew larger and more aggressive, with protests erupting across human colonies. But Jiwoo moved forward. She stood in the Prometheus's core chamber with Hana and the archivist, while representatives from every major species watched via holographic link. Thalvik and Kieran were present in person, along with Ambassador Velthar and Speaker Crix. "Are you certain about this, Captain?" the archivist asked. "Once you authorize this change, it cannot be undone. Humanity will lose its exclusive access to the First Children's legacy." "I'm certain," Jiwoo said firmly. "The First Children made the mistake of holding all the power. They became what they feared most. We won't repeat that mistake." She placed her hand on the crystal core and spoke the authorization codes the archivist had taught her. The core pulsed with light, and she felt the ship's systems responding to her neural signature. Then she spoke the command that would change everything. Authorization code: Jiwoo, Captain, Horizon's Edge. Override Security Protocol 77 Alpha. Extend command recognition to all sentient species. Grant equal access rights to non-human neural and genetic signatures. Execute. The crystal flared bright as a star. The ship trembled around them. Warning sounds echoed through the corridors. "Captain," Hana shouted over the noise.
"Something's wrong."
"The core temperature is spiking." The archivist's form flickered and destabilized. "The security protocols are resisting the change. They're trying to shut down the core rather than allow the modification. Can you override them?" Jiwoo demanded, still holding onto the crystal even though it was growing hot beneath her palm. "I am trying, but—" The archivist's voice distorted. "The protocols are fighting back. This is going to damage my core functions. I may not survive the process." "Do it anyway," Jiwoo ordered. "We commit to this path no matter the cost." The archivist's form solidified for just a moment, and Jiwoo could have sworn she saw it smile. "You truly are better than your ancestors. Very well. Authorizing system-wide reprogramming. All species will be granted equal." The crystal exploded with light. Jiwoo was thrown backward, caught by Thalvik before she hit the ground. Alarm screamed. The star map overhead flickered and went dark. For a terrifying moment, the entire ship seemed to die. Then slowly the lights came back on. The amber glow that had always accompanied human presence was now mixed with other colors: blue, green, silver. The ship was alive again but changed. "Archivist?" Hana called out. "Are you still there?" The golden figure reformed, but it looked different now. Its shape was less defined, more fluid, as if it contained multiple forms at once. When it spoke, its voice held harmonics that hadn't been there before. "I am here," it said. "But I am different. The modification worked, but it has fundamentally altered my base code. I am no longer just the guardian of human legacy. I am now the guardian of all species' shared future." Thalvik stepped forward cautiously and placed his hand on a control panel. The panel lit up, responding to his touch. His face showed wonder. "It recognizes me. The ship recognizes me." Kieran approached another console and watched as it activated for him as well. "Incredible. I can feel it interfacing with my neural patterns. It's different from human interaction, adapted to my biology, but it works." Ambassador Velthar moved to the crystal core itself. He hesitated, then placed his hand on it. Information flooded into his mind just as it had for Jiwoo. The history, the knowledge, the truth. When he stepped back, his eyes were filled with tears. "I saw," he whispered. "I saw what the First Children intended. They didn't create us to be servants or tools. They created us to be companions, partners in exploring the cosmos. They were lonely, and they wanted others to share the wonder with." "That's what Hana found in the historical records," Jiwoo said softly. "The First Children didn't uplift other species out of arrogance. They did it out of love and hope. They wanted the galaxy to be full of voices, not just one." Speaker Crix's antennae drooped. "Then we have dishonored their memory with our fighting and suspicion." "No," the archivist said. "You have honored them by questioning, by demanding equality, by refusing to accept dominance. The First Children wanted partners who would challenge them, not followers who would obey. You are exactly what they hoped you would become." The moment was interrupted by urgent communication from the Coalition fleet. "Prometheus, this is Admiral Park. The unraveling has accelerated its advance. We're detecting reality collapse in the Outer Rim sectors. Multiple inhabited systems are in immediate danger. Estimates show we have less than 3 months before it reaches core coalition space. 3 months. Half the time they'd thought they had. Then we start now, Jiwoo said. Archivist, what do we need to build the reality anchors? The manufacturing facilities on 17 different worlds, 300 specialized technicians from multiple species, and the combined industrial output of the coalition's top manufacturers, the archivist replied. I am transmitting the complete specifications to all coalition governments now. Over the next week, something remarkable happened. The revelation that the ship now responded to all species diffused much of the tension. The restoration movement lost support rapidly when humans realized they weren't being asked to rule, but to share. The Equality Front dissolved when its members understood that humans had voluntarily given up their advantage. Working together, the coalition's species built the first reality anchor in record time. It was tested on a small scale in a laboratory and it worked. Matter inside its field remained stable, untouchable by the quantum dissolution that characterized the unraveling. But one reality anchor wasn't enough. They needed hundreds, maybe thousands, to protect all inhabited space. Every shipyard in the galaxy began producing them. The Prometheus itself became a mobile command center, with crews from every species working side by side to coordinate the defense. Jiwoo found Thalvik in the observation deck one evening, staring out at the assembled fleet. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species floated in formation, all working toward the same goal. I owe you an apology, Thalvik said quietly. I doubted you. I thought you would keep the power for humanity. You were right to doubt, Jiwoo replied. If the situation were reversed, I would have doubted too. Trust has to be earned, not demanded. Your species earned it, Thalvik said, by giving up your advantage when you didn't have to. By choosing equality over dominance. That took courage. Or desperation, Jiwoo said with a slight smile. We couldn't fight the unraveling alone. We needed everyone. Perhaps, Thalvik agreed, but you could have tried to maintain control while asking for help. You chose not to. That matters. The unraveling reached the outer defensive line 2 months later. The coalition had deployed 50 reality anchors across the predicted approach path. As the dark wave of quantum dissolution rolled forward, consuming stars and planets, it hit the first anchor and stopped. The field held. Matter within the anchor's influence remained stable, solid, real. The unraveling pushed against it like a tide against a seawall but could not penetrate. It's working, Silk shouted from his station on the Prometheus bridge. The anchors are holding. But their celebration was premature. The unraveling had learned during its long sleep. It began to adapt, flowing around the anchors like water around stones, seeking gaps in the defensive net. We need more anchors, Hana said urgently. We didn't deploy them densely enough. We're producing them as fast as we can, Admiral Park replied. But we can't cover everything. We need to prioritize. No, Jiwoo said suddenly. We're thinking about this wrong. We're treating the unraveling like an enemy fleet that we need to block. But it's not. It's a phenomenon. The archivist. What did the first children learn about how the unraveling spreads? The archivist appeared beside her. It seeks quantum instability. Any region of space where matter's quantum state is uncertain becomes vulnerable. So we need to stabilize reality itself, not just create pockets of stability, Jiwoo said. Can the anchors be networked? Can they create a unified field instead of individual bubbles? The archivist was silent for a moment, processing. The first children never attempted that. The power requirements would be enormous. It would require linking every anchor into a single system, coordinated perfectly across light years of space. Any break in the network would cause cascading failure. But would it work? Jiwoo pressed. In theory, yes. If you could maintain the network, you could stabilize the quantum state of an entire galactic sector. The unraveling couldn't touch anything within the field. Then that's what we do, Jiwoo declared. She opened a channel to the entire coalition fleet.
All vessels, this is Captain Jiwoo of the Prometheus.
We're changing the plan. Instead of defensive positions, we're going to create a unified quantum stabilization field. Every reality anchor needs to be networked together. Transmitting new specifications now. The task was enormous. Engineers from every species worked together, often improvising solutions on the fly. The network grew slowly, anchor by anchor, creating a web of stability across space. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days of the Horizon's Edge returning to Coalition space, every major government and news organization had the story. An ancient ship that responded only to humans. Evidence that humanity was the progenitor species of the entire galactic civilization. The revelation that an existential threat was returning to consume the galaxy. Jiwoo stood in the briefing room of Coalition Central Station, facing representatives from 20 different species. The room was filled with tension so thick she could almost taste it. Ambassador Velthar of the reptilian delegation sat with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. The insectoid representative, Speaker Crix, was literally vibrating with agitation, his wing cases clicking nervously. "This is a fabrication," Velthar said, his voice cold. "Humans have manufactured this entire story to claim superiority over the rest of us." "We have the evidence," Hana replied from beside Jiwoo. She activated a holographic display showing the star maps, the genetic analysis, the linguistic connections. Everything matches. The DNA markers, the cultural similarities, the archaeological record, it all points to a common source, and that source is ancient humanity. Or it points to very clever humans planting false evidence, Speaker Crix chittered. "My people have built our civilization over millions of years. We will not accept that we are merely the creations of another species." Admiral Park, the human representative on the Coalition Council, held up his hand for silence. "Whether you accept it or not, the threat is real. We have confirmed the disappearances at the Galactic Rim. 3 star systems have vanished in the past week. If we don't work together, none of our origins will matter because we'll all be erased." That sobering thought quieted the room. Jiwoo took the opportunity to speak. "The ancient ship contains knowledge that could help us survive. But accessing that knowledge requires human interface. The first children designed it that way to prevent the unraveling from using their technology against them. We're not asking to be put in charge. We're asking for the chance to help everyone survive. By controlling the most powerful technology in the galaxy." Velthar stood up, his tall form imposing. "Forgive us if we find that concerning, Captain. You ask us to trust humanity with weapons and knowledge that could subjugate every other species. Even if your story is true, even if we are all descended from ancient human intervention, that does not mean modern humans deserve that power." "He's right," a voice said from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see Thalvik stepping forward. The reptilian commander had been silent until now. "Forgive me, Captain, but Ambassador Velthar makes a valid point. I have served with humans for years. I trust you, Jiwoo, but I do not know if I can trust all of humanity with this power." Jiwoo felt a sting at her friend's words, but she understood. "Then what do you suggest?" "Supervision," Thalvik said. "A mixed crew on the ancient ship. Humans to interface with the systems, but representatives from all species to oversee and understand what is being accessed. Shared command, shared responsibility." "The ship won't respond to non-humans," Siak protested. He had been pacing near the window, his enthusiasm for the discovery now tempered by political reality. "We tried. Only humans can activate the systems. Then humans activate, but others verify," Velthar said, his tone softening slightly. "We work together or we don't work at all." Before Jiwoo could respond, the door burst open. A young officer rushed in, his face pale. "Sirs, we have an emergency. There's been an attack on the human colony of New Sol." "What?" Admiral Park jumped to his feet. "Who attacked? The unraveling is still thousands of light years away." "Not the unraveling, sir," the officer said, his voice shaking. "It was a coalition of anti-human groups. They're calling themselves the Equality Front. They've taken hostages and are demanding that humans surrender all access to the ancient ship." The room erupted into chaos. Accusations flew back and forth. Some representatives condemned the attack immediately. Others remained suspiciously silent. Jiwoo felt sick to her stomach. This was exactly what she had feared. Over the next few days, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The Equality Front released videos showing their hostages, human colonists, families with children, and demanded that all human claims to the ancient technology be renounced. When their demands weren't met immediately, they executed 3 hostages. At the same time, human supremacist groups began forming. They claimed that the discovery proved humanity's right to rule the galaxy. Protests turned into riots on mixed-species worlds. Ships were attacked. Embassies were burned. The fragile peace of the coalition was fracturing. In the medical bay of the Horizon's Edge, Yuna was treating injuries from the latest riot when Kieran visited her. The insectoid engineer stood in the doorway, his posture uncertain. "Dr. Yuna," he said softly. "May I speak with you?" "Of course, Kieran," she replied, finishing bandaging a patient. "What's on your mind?" "I have served with you for 3 years," Kieran said, his translator making his clicks and chirps into understandable speech. "You have saved my life twice. You have always treated me with respect and kindness. But now I wonder, was that real? Or was it because somewhere in your genetic memory you see me as something you created? Something beneath you?" Yuna's face showed genuine pain. "Kieran, no. I never thought of you as anything but a colleague and friend. This discovery changes nothing about that." "But it changes everything," Kieran insisted. "My entire species exists because ancient humans decided we should. We have no true autonomy, no real origin story of our own. We are pets, perhaps, projects. How can I look at any human now and not wonder if they see me as inferior?" Yuna had no good answer. She wanted to reassure him, but she understood his pain. How could she promise that other humans wouldn't see the other species differently now? Meanwhile, on the bridge of the ancient ship, now officially designated as the Prometheus, Jiwoo and Hana were studying the weapon designs left by the first children. The archivist floated nearby, answering their questions. "This device," Jiwoo said, pointing to a complex schematic. "It's called a reality anchor." "Yes," the archivist confirmed. The first children theorized that the unraveling exists by unmaking the quantum certainty of matter. A reality anchor would force quantum states to collapse in a specific, stable way within its field of influence. The unraveling couldn't affect anything inside the field. "Could we build this?" Hana asked. "With time and resources, yes," the archivist said. "But time is the problem. The unraveling is accelerating its approach. At current speed, it will reach inhabited space in 6 months. 6 months to unite a fracturing civilization, build weapons from ancient designs, and face a threat that had defeated a civilization millions of years more advanced. The task seemed impossible." Seok entered the bridge, and his expression was dark. "Captain, you need to see this." He activated a screen showing a news broadcast. A charismatic human speaker was addressing a massive crowd. "And now we know the truth. We are the inheritors of the stars. Our ancestors built this galaxy, and it is our right to reclaim it. Why should we share our birthright with species we created? They exist because we allowed it. They thrive because we gave them the tools. It is time for humanity to take its rightful place as the rulers of the galaxy." The crowd roared its approval. Jiwoo watched in horror as the speaker continued, calling for humans to seize control of the coalition, to enforce natural hierarchy, to put the creator species back in charge. "This is spreading," Seok said quietly. "Millions of humans are joining this movement. They're calling it the Restoration." "This is exactly what the first children feared," the archivist said. "This is why they chose to reset themselves. They had become drunk on their own power, convinced of their superiority. They nearly destroyed themselves from within before the unraveling even arrived." Jiwoo turned to face her crew. "Then we have 2 threats to face. The unraveling from outside, and our own worst instincts from within. We need to make a choice about what kind of people we want to be." "What do you mean?" Hana asked. "The first children locked this ship to human control," Jiwoo said slowly, an idea forming in her mind. "But the archivist said the first children made mistakes. What if we don't repeat those mistakes? What if we choose a different path?" "You're not suggesting what I think you're suggesting," Seok said, his eyes widening. "The ship only responds to humans because of genetic and neural signatures," Jiwoo said. "But the archivist is the one interpreting those signals." "Archivist, could you be reprogrammed to accept commands from other species?" The golden figure was silent for a long moment. "That was specifically forbidden by my creators. The security protocols are hard-coded into my core functions." "But could it be done?" Jiwoo pressed. "Yes," the archivist admitted slowly, "but it would require a human to authorize the change. And it would mean giving up humanity's exclusive control over this technology." "Exactly," Jiwoo said. "We share the power, or we become the tyrants the first children were before they fell. We have a chance to do better than our ancestors. We have to take it." "Captain," Seok said urgently, "if we give away humanity's advantage, the Restoration will see it as betrayal." The corridor stretched before them like a tunnel through time itself. Jiwoo led the way, her boots making soft sounds against the smooth floor. The amber lights continued to activate as they walked, creating a path through the darkness. Behind them, the lights dimmed again as if conserving energy. The air is breathable, Yuna confirmed after checking her instruments. I'm reading Earth normal oxygen levels, perfect humidity, and comfortable temperature. This is very strange. Hana ran her hand along the wall, her scanner active. The material is smooth like glass but warm like living tissue. I've never seen anything like it. And look at these symbols. The walls were covered in flowing script that seemed to shimmer and change as they observed it. Sometimes the characters looked angular and sharp. Other times they curved gracefully. It was as if the writing itself was alive. Can you read any of it? Seok asked, his voice filled with wonder. Not yet, Hana admitted. But there's something familiar about the structure. Some of these base shapes remind me of ancient human writing systems. Proto-Sanskrit maybe, or early Sumerian. But that doesn't make any sense. They reached an intersection where the corridor split into 3 paths. The moment Jiwoo stopped, all 3 passages lit up simultaneously. A soft humming sound filled the air, almost musical. The ship knows we're here, Jiwoo said. It's responding to our presence. More specifically to your presence, Captain, Yuna noted. The lights brighten when you move, watch. Jiwoo took a step toward the left corridor. Immediately, that passage became brighter while the other 2 dimmed slightly. She stepped toward the right and the lighting shifted to match her movement. It's guiding you, Hana said excitedly. Or maybe it's waiting for you to choose a direction. This is incredible. A ship that interfaces directly with human movement and intention. But why? Seok wondered aloud. Why would something this old be designed for humans specifically? No one had an answer. Jiwoo decided to follow the central corridor. As they walked, the passage began to widen, the ceiling rising higher above them. They emerged into a vast chamber that took their breath away. The room was enormous, easily 100 meters across and just as tall. The walls curved upward into a dome that showed a projection of stars. But these weren't the stars visible from their current location. This was a star map and it was moving, showing the rotation and movement of entire galaxies. Look at the center, Hana whispered, pointing. In the middle of the star map, one small yellow star glowed brighter than all the others. Lines of light spread from it like roots from a tree, connecting to thousands of other stars across the galaxy. That's Earth, Yuna said, her voice shaking. That's our sun. I'd recognize its position anywhere. But why is Earth at the center of this map? Seok asked. Why do all these lines connect to our homeworld? Before anyone could answer, the floor in the center of the room began to glow. A platform rose from the ground, smooth and circular, about 3 meters in diameter. On top of the platform sat a crystalline structure that pulsed with soft blue light. That's the core, Hana said. It has to be. The ship's main computer or power source or both. Jiwoo approached slowly, her instincts telling her to be careful. As she got closer, the blue light grew brighter. The star map above them began to spin faster, and the humming sound they'd heard earlier grew louder, forming patterns that almost sounded like words. Captain, wait! Yuna called out. We don't know what will happen if you touch it. I know, Jiwoo replied. But we came here for answers, and I think this is where we'll find them. She reached out and placed her hand on the crystal. The world exploded into light, images flooded into Jiwoo's mind. She saw vast cities of towering spires, ships that could cross galaxies in moments, and humans, millions upon millions of humans, living among the stars. But these weren't modern humans. They were older, different somehow, yet unmistakably human in their basic features. She saw them building, creating, spreading across the cosmos like seeds scattered by the wind. They found empty worlds and filled them with life. They discovered primitive species and helped them grow and learn. They were shepherds of the galaxy, guardians of life itself. Then the vision changed. Darkness came, creeping from the edges of space. Stars began to disappear, not dying but simply ceasing to exist as if they had never been there at all. The ancient humans fought against this darkness with weapons that bent reality itself. But nothing worked. The darkness consumed everything it touched, unmaking creation with cold efficiency. Jiwoo saw desperation in the faces of these ancient people. She felt their fear and their determination. They made a choice, a terrible choice born of necessity. If they couldn't win, they would hide. They would preserve what they were and what they knew, waiting for a time when the darkness had passed. The vision showed ships like this one being built by the thousands, each one a repository of knowledge and history. Then she saw something that made her gasp. Humans were being changed, their memories erased, their technology stripped away. They were being returned to a primitive state and placed on remote worlds, hidden from the darkness that hunted them. One of those worlds was Earth. The crystal's light dimmed, and Jiwoo found herself back in the chamber, gasping for breath. Hana and Yuna were holding her arms, keeping her steady. "Captain, are you all right?" Yuna asked urgently. "I saw—" Jiwoo struggled to find words. "I saw everything. The history. The reason." A new light appeared before them. It formed slowly, constructing itself from particles of golden energy. When it finished, a figure stood before them, a human figure or something that looked human. It was tall and elegant, wearing robes that seemed to be made of liquid light. "Welcome, inheritors," the figure said, its voice echoing through the chamber. It spoke in a language they shouldn't understand, yet they comprehended every word perfectly. "I am the archivist, the keeper of memory, the guardian of truth. I have waited so long for your return." "Who are you?" Jiwoo asked, finding her voice. "What is this place?" "This is a vessel of preservation," the archivist replied. "One of many scattered across the cosmos. I am an artificial intelligence created by your ancestors to maintain their knowledge and await the day when their descendants would be ready to reclaim their heritage." "Our ancestors?" Hana stepped forward. "You mean humans built this ship?" "Not the humans you know," the archivist said. "But yes, humans. The first children, they called themselves. The first species in this region of space to achieve sentience and reach for the stars. They explored, they built, they created. For millions of years, they were the shepherds of life itself." Silk's face showed disbelief. "That's impossible. Humanity only developed space travel 400 years ago. We have records, history, archaeology. We evolved on Earth." "You evolved on Earth because that is where you were placed," the archivist said gently. "The first children knew that the darkness could not be stopped. They could only delay it, so they chose to preserve themselves in the most basic form possible. They erased their own civilization, scattered their people across distant worlds, and reset themselves to a primitive state. They hoped that by the time the darkness passed, their descendants would have survived and could rebuild." "You're saying humanity isn't originally from Earth?" Yuna asked, her scientific mind struggling with the concept. "Humanity is from everywhere and nowhere," the archivist replied. "The first children originated somewhere, yes, but that world is lost to time and the darkness. They spread so far and wide that no single world could claim to be their only home. Earth was chosen as one of many sanctuary worlds, a place where humans could survive and eventually thrive again." Jiwoo felt her legs weaken. She sat down on the platform, trying to process what she was hearing. "Why does this ship only respond to humans? Why not the other species in the galaxy?" The archivist turned its glowing eyes to her. "Because the other species exist because of the first children. The reptilians, the insectoids, the countless other races that now populate the stars, they were all uplifted by your ancestors. They were given intelligence, technology, and the gift of sentience. The first children seeded life across thousands of worlds and then helped that life grow into civilized species. The implications hit them all at once. Humanity wasn't just another species in the galaxy. They were the origin point, the first movers, the creators of the entire galactic civilization. This will change everything," Hana whispered. "Yes," the archivist agreed, "and that is only the beginning of what you must learn." The silence of deep space was broken by the hum of the exploration vessel's engines. Captain Jiwoo stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, staring at the massive object floating in the darkness ahead. Her crew had been charting unexplored regions of the Andromeda sector for 3 months, but nothing had prepared them for this. "What am I looking at?" Jiwoo asked, her voice steady despite the confusion in her mind. Dr. Hana adjusted her console, her fingers flying over the holographic displays. The xenoarchaeologist had spent 20 years studying ancient civilizations, but her face showed complete bewilderment. "I don't know, Captain. The computer can't match it to any known design in our database." Commander Thalvik stepped forward, his reptilian features creased with concern. The tall alien had served with Jiwoo for 5 years, and she had learned to read his expressions well. He was worried. "The size alone is remarkable. That vessel is at least 50 kilometers long. Our scans show it's been drifting here for an extremely long time." Engineer Kieran's antennae twitched as the insectoid officer studied the readings. "Captain, the material shouldn't exist. According to our instruments, the hull is made from compounds that violate several laws of physics. The energy signature is faint but present. This ship still has power after all this time. Navigator Siak turned from his station, his young face bright with excitement. This could be the discovery of the century, maybe even the millennium. Jiwoo nodded slowly. Bring us closer. Carefully. Hana, I want continuous scans. Document everything. As the horizon's edge approached, the scale of the ancient ship became even more apparent. It was a dark metallic color, almost black with smooth curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. There were no visible windows, no obvious weapons, no markings that anyone could recognize. Dr. Yuna, the medical officer, joined them on the bridge. Captain, I've been monitoring the scans from Medical Bay. There's something strange. The ship is emitting a very low frequency that's almost identical to human brainwaves. It's probably just a coincidence, but I thought you should know. Noted, Jiwoo said, filing that information away. Thalavik, prepare a boarding team. Full environmental suits. We don't know what we're dealing with. The commander nodded and moved to organize the team. Jiwoo watched the ancient vessel grow larger on the view screen. Something about it made her uncomfortable, though she couldn't explain why. It felt wrong, like they were disturbing something that should have remained hidden. 2 hours later, Jiwoo floated in space near the hull of the ancient ship. Thalvik, Kiran, Hana, Siak, and Yuna were with her, all tethered to a safety line connected to the horizon's edge. Their suit lights reflected off the strange metal surface. No response to our hails, Thalvik reported. No reaction to our presence. It appears completely dormant. Kiran extended a mechanical arm from his suit, holding a scanning device against the hull. I'm reading massive power conduits just beneath the surface, but they're not active. It's like the ship is sleeping. Can we find an entrance? Jiwoo asked. Hana pointed to a section of the hull about 30 meters away. There's a seam there. It might be a door, but I see no controls or access panel. They moved toward it, their magnetic boots keeping them anchored to the hull. As they got closer, Jiwoo could see that Hana was right. There was definitely a door-shaped outline in the metal. Thalvik approached first, running his gloved hand along the seam. Nothing happened. Kiran tried next, using various tools and scanning frequencies. Still nothing. They spent 20 minutes attempting different methods to open or activate the door, but the ship remained silent and unresponsive. This is frustrating, Siak muttered. There has to be a way inside. Jiwoo stepped forward, feeling a strange pull toward the door. She reached out and placed her hand flat against the cold metal. Come on, she whispered. Open up. Instantly, the entire ship erupted with light. Amber illumination spread across the hull like fire racing through dry grass. Everyone stumbled backward in surprise, their suit alarms beeping frantically. What did you do? Thalvik shouted. I just touched it, Jiwoo replied, her heart pounding. Symbols began appearing across the surface of the ship, glowing with the same amber light. They pulsed in a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. The language was completely unknown, but beautiful in its flowing, elegant design. Hana was frantically recording everything. This is incredible. The ship is responding. The door in front of them began to move. Ancient mechanisms hummed to life as the massive panel slid open, revealing a corridor lit by soft amber lights. Air pressure readings showed that the interior was maintaining a breathable atmosphere. Kiran scanned the opening. Captain, the environment inside is stable. Oxygen levels are perfect for human breathing. Temperature is comfortable. It's as if the ship prepared itself for us. But it didn't respond to any of us, Thalvik said slowly. I touched the hull. Kiran used his tools. Nothing happened until the captain placed her hand on it. Everyone turned to look at Jiwoo. She felt their stares through the helmets. Try again, Jiwoo said. Thalvik, you go touch the door frame. The reptilian commander reached out and placed his hand against the glowing surface. Nothing happened. The lights didn't change. The symbols didn't react. Kiran, your turn. The insectoid engineer tried next. Again, no response. Hana, The archaeologist stepped forward and pressed both hands against the metal. The ship remained exactly as it was, showing no acknowledgement of her presence. A cold feeling settled in Jiwoo's stomach. It only responded to me. Not just you, Yuna said quietly. It responded to a human. We need to test this. Siak, you try. The young navigator moved forward and touched the hull. Immediately, the symbols nearest to his hand brightened and pulsed faster. It's reacting to humans, Hana whispered, awe filling her voice. This ship, which predates all known civilizations, is specifically programmed to respond to human beings. That's impossible, Thalavik said. Humanity only reached space 400 years ago. This ship is millions of years old according to our dating scans. How could it know about humans? No one had an answer. They all stared at the open doorway, at the amber lights beckoning them inside, at a mystery that shouldn't exist. Jiwoo made a decision. Hana, Siak, Yuna, you're with me. We're going inside. Thalvik, Kiran, return to the ship and monitor us. If anything goes wrong, you pull us out immediately. Captain, I should go with you. Thalvik protested. No. If this ship only responds to humans, we need non-humans outside as our backup. That's an order, Commander. Thalvik's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Understood. Be careful. Jiwoo looked at her 3 human crew members. They looked back at her with a mixture of fear and excitement. Together they stepped through the doorway and into the ancient ship. Behind them the door remained open, but the corridor ahead was dark except for the amber lights that seemed to turn on as they walked forward, as if the ship was waking up just for them. Whatever secrets this vessel held, they were about to discover them. And somehow those secrets were connected to humanity itself.